Hi, everybody. It's Wednesday, the day before we open the gates. All of the systems are go for the influx of tourists who will add dollars to our economy. There was an agenda set for today, and I think I'm going to table most of everything on there except for the discussion of the document that was shared on Monday from Erica and the organizational and resource plan. I know that it's cause for more consternation. It's not like we haven't had to deal with stresses, and it's not like we haven't had to deal with challenges since March 23rd. This is again, more things that make us worry, more things that bring us to lots of some very deep reflections. I will say that this is probably the hardest time for all of us, and that includes your administrators as well as all of the faculty and staff who have struggled so hard to keep up a positive face, as well as to make sure that whatever it is that we do for the campus continues to be done with excellence. And it's very difficult to continue to do that in these situations. But the document is a point of departure. I want to make sure that folks understand that what is on that document is for consideration. What is on that document is the beginning of the conversation, not the end. There are specifically named services and programs on that list. And I do want to talk to you a little bit about how those things got on that list. And I also want to talk to you a little bit about what happens next. So let me talk to you a little bit about that list. So in the first part, there's a list of services that are being considered for centralization. Those are services that are done fairly similarly by all institutions in the community college system, and that they are done individually on each of the campuses, where the processes are quite similar, or should be quite similar. And so the question is, how could we optimize those processes or those services by consolidating the services in a central place? Not place so much as a geographic place, because there's not going to be anywhere if we consolidate or centralize where everybody's going to go, because there's no building anywhere that's going to house all these people. But it will be people who may be geographically on a campus who service all of the campuses from their geographic location. And some of the reasons for those services are that they may be the same service but done differently and not always done as well. So I'll use the example of financial aid, and only because financial aid is such a regulated service. It is regulated by the federal government, and so there are very strict rules about how you do things. And some campuses do those things very well. That would be us. Our campus does financial aid very well. Noelle knows that. Jennifer Bradley, she understands that too. But there are some other campuses where they have been cited for not doing things very well. And why should that be? So does it make sense to have a centralized part of financial aid? And so all of the services that you see listed there are the beginning of a conversation about, would it make sense to have a centralized group of professionals providing that service? Would it help to streamline the processing? Would it help to optimize the processing? And it's not to say that there wouldn't be a campus presence for all of those services, a person or persons on the campus to continue to deliver the service, even though some of that processing becomes centralized. I remember that we did transcript evaluation one time. We had a person who was our employee working at UH Manoa doing transcript evaluation. That's another service that may benefit from having centralized decision-making, so that it wouldn't get evaluated 7 times if the student transfers from one campus to another. So again, those services were identified to see whether or not it would make sense to centralize some of the functions of the service. The question about the academic programs and what got listed there, if you look for Kapiolani on that list, you would see very few programs. New media arts is there because new media arts or digital arts or some version thereof occurs on multiple campuses. So some of the programs are on that list because they occur on multiple campuses, but maybe on some campuses they're very small. So the data for the programs on that list were taken from ARPDs. And so if you look at I think there's 4 new media or digital media or some version of media programs, some of which are well subscribed, like Leeward's has 100 and some odd majors, ours has 50 some odd majors, but the other 2 are very small. Does it make sense to continue to offer the very small programs on those campuses? Are there other ways that the instruction could be delivered and those students served rather than having small programs on different campuses? I think the only other academic programs that are listed there are the health programs. And again, the list was generated based on ARPD data, looking at the size of the program. Does it make sense to continue to offer the programs? So the parameters when you're looking at academic programs is, okay, is there still a need for the program? Generally speaking, does it fill a state requirement? Is it necessary for the state? Is this the only way to offer the program? So we are not the sole providers of some of those programs, like medical assisting is offered on multiple programs, but it's on multiple campuses, sorry, but it's smaller on other campuses. But the health programs, generally speaking, are small. And they are small for multiple reasons. Accreditation is one, faculty to student ratio is another, available jobs is another, clinical placements for students, all of those things are factors. So they're not on the list because we're going to pull the plug on those programs. They are on the list because A, they're small, but B, is this the best way to offer the program? I can speak, I take my time. Are there other ways to offer the programs that they might grow if they could? So those conversations will take place. And they are going to take place at the system level as well. So a little bit about what the next steps will be. I know that for those services that are being considered for centralization of certain aspects of the services, there will be system-wide groups that will be called together of those people in those areas to talk about, does it make sense, first of all? What might it look like if it were? Which aspects of the service might be centralized? Which ones need to remain campus-based? For the academic programs, the deans, all the system-wide deans and the vice chancellors for academic affairs will be meeting this afternoon to look at how best to convene groups of faculty in those programs. Not sort of program by program, but what I understood from the meeting this morning was it was going to be more about pathways. So business as a pathway. So would include accounting, would include marketing, would include management as a cluster. Hospitality, culinary together as a cluster. And all the faculty would be invited system-wide to have those conversations. So there will be some very important conversations that will be generated. It's a short turnaround time, and it's in alignment with the Board of Regents wanting to know in December, what is the university going to do? So the feedback is going to be quick, and I apologize. It's not that we're going to have months to talk about this part of it. There will be spring conversations, but they will happen once we've identified where we want to move in which particular directions. So on this campus, tomorrow at the CAC, I do want to speak with the CAC folks about how might we do these conversations on our campus. Certainly, I want the AGOs to go back to their constituents to talk more about what's going to be, what their feedback is from their constituent groups, their feedback to the document, and to channel that to me. And at the CAC tomorrow, I'll be asking the CAC about some possibilities for having campus conversations. And it might be parallel to what the deans and the vice chancellors decide this afternoon, that we might have campus conversations that would align with those, so that when our campus folks join the other people in those areas at the system-wide meeting, they will have had a preliminary conversation on their own campus about what they might want to see. What I want to make sure we consider as we have these conversations is who we are as Kapi'olani Community College. What is so special about us that we want to make sure we maintain going forward. The university's never been in this position before to have these conversations at this scale. So the processes are being developed as we speak. It's not just that we're building the car. As we go down the highway, we are also building the highway that we're building the car to go down. So there's a lot of fluidity in the processing of this information, but we do want to make sure that the people most impacted by whatever changes come down are there at the table. So in part, the conversations have to take the larger context together with what is specific to our campus. So it's a dynamic tension right here. Before I get into questions, thank you, Mark. I see your first one there. I know that there are some questions about what the role of the administration is in all of this, and what is it that we're doing to be focusing in on our efforts and our endeavors. I want to make sure that everyone understands that the administrative team is working very hard to make sure that we can sustain our programs, sustain our services, and to make sure that what we do reflects the best interest of the institution and most especially the students. You know already that the administrators will be taking a 9.2, I saw 2.3, might be 2.8, might be my eyes, I'm not sure, but it's 9.2 something. Pay cut starts November 1st. I also want to make sure that it's clear that the administrators are not exempt from the changes that might be coming down. There is no guarantee that this administrative team is coming back in the fall in this particular configuration. Each one of us in our position is vulnerable. If these consolidations go in these directions, there may well not be a need for one administrator or another, including the chancellor's position. It may well be, there are other instances of these kinds of reconfigurations where because programs are consolidated across campuses, deans are bumped up to the system level. Maybe there won't be campus deans. Maybe there'll be system deans that will direct the program system-wide. Maybe if the business and HR functions are centralized, maybe there'll just need to be somebody at the system level to do the administrative part of that. And VCAS on each campus is no longer necessary. If academic affairs and student affairs are merged on all the campuses as they are at Leeward and Honolulu Community College, and somebody else is doing HR and business office at the system level, you don't need a chancellor. You just need the vice chancellor for academic affairs to be the provost that will look after student affairs and academic affairs. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying those kinds of things are possible. So please don't think that we can be somewhere else and be not touched by what might change at the university level. So it is a very difficult time for all of us. Let me, the questions are piling up. Let's see. Mark, ARPD data is not reflected accurately. I know that your programs, because of the dates that students graduate, it's not always accurate. So please don't think, there have been no decisions, and the people who are in the programs and your deans will be in those conversations. It is simply a point of departure. Kara says, will someone be reaching out to those of us in the reorg section to participate? Yes. Yes, there will be convenings that will be gathered for any and all of the groups that are listed in those areas which may be consolidated or centralized. I'm sorry, not consolidated, but centralized. Marketing, what's this? Sean asked, will there also be system-wide marketing efforts to advance these clusters? Would it be possible to have HIC participate in some of these meetings? Overseas marketing trends. There is a system-wide marketing group, and I cannot tell you, Sean, whether or not they are, what strategies they might be planning. And we should not actually be using the word marketing. This is really about communication. So the communication is never specifically for international markets, as far as I know, but that's not to say that we could not take whatever messages are being crafted for the system to address the international market. And Louise Yamamoto would know more about what efforts are coming in. If there's an opportunity, she might jump in. Mark is correct, the data is wrong. Okay, Lisa saying yes. We need to make sure that we're addressing the ARPDs this year. Okay. What is DCAS? Hal says. VC. Did I say DC? No, VC, Vice Chancellor. Mark's still talking about restructure of the administration. Data is accurate. Okay. Again, the decisions will not be made based on ARPD data. ARPD data will be a factor. It will not be the only consideration. But if everything's wrong in the ARPD, best to really ask why is it wrong? What is it that is making the data wrong? No sense doing an ARPD all the time if the data are wrong. So what is it that's wrong? Yes, Lisa.
I've talked with the data folks, and they are aligned with the fiscal calendar. So they collect data on a different cycle than what we usually report our cohort data. And the reason the system does that is because that's what we have to report out to the federal government related to our iPads data. So this is always a problem in most schools. So that's where we just put the correct information in our narratives, because they have to keep that data as is. Now, where it could be different is if we look at the graduation numbers, for example, and they're missing numbers, even using their schedule, then we need to do a deeper dive. But the numbers are never gonna line up exactly.
We have to have broader conversations. Thank you, Lisa. Kara's asking about where are the financial projections? Kara, financial projections for what?
So thank you. So I took a look at the UHCC site and I really combed through it and I couldn't find any connection between and how much money that's going to save. So is that somewhere, where is that?
There's no projections that can be made because the conversations haven't happened about how these things will be consolidated.
Is that why it's so general then right now? Because they're just, so it's almost, yeah, so I think it's so general that it makes it hard for us. It provides a lot of room for conjecture, I think. So you're saying that it's intentionally general, it's sort of on the vague side is how I see it, just because we're going to have with the solution and then the projections can be made.
I think what we want to understand also is that this is not, it's an economic catalyst, but it is not solely for economic purposes. It is really to look at the efficiencies of the university and make the university more efficient. So we don't have a thing that says, okay, what we do know is that it's going to be $100 million shortfall. That we know, but we don't have a number that says we have to save this much in academic programs, this much in any of the processing. It really is more about how can we better serve students given the resources that we have, and are there efficiencies that can be executed. So the efficiencies are there to have a better process, to have a better university, and then there will be an examination of whatever salary savings there are from any of these consolidations or other savings from technology, let's say. It's not going to be done on the basis of, okay, so we need to save X amount of dollars, we'll cut 3 deans from every campus and we'll do that. That'll be fine. I mean, it really is about what makes the most sense. How are we going to have a university that is the right size for the services that are provided? How can we have a university that is the right size for the academic programs that we need to deliver, that the state needs, and that students will exit from with a job at some point that they can make a living with. So it's about making sure that the university as a whole is the right size for what needs to be done and provided to the state. Yeah, so Brian says we don't have projections. He answers succinctly, and I am verbose. Other questions? Could I comment on the possible conversion of 11 month faculty to 9-month appointments and how that might be done? It was one of the suggestions that was made as part of our budget committee, as well as other campuses had that. If there is that conversation, it will be based on function, what functions are necessary to be 11 months, what functions are not necessarily 11-month functions. If there are functions that don't need to be 11 months, maybe they need to be 9 months with extra stipend for some portion of the summer, depending on what the activities are. That's quite likely how that conversation will go. There is no plan that I'm aware of right now to address that question specifically, but it is one of those factors or one of those strategies that is being considered. There are functions that are necessary to be 11 months and others which we may want to look at and say, oh, is this really necessary for 11 months?
Louise,
Yes, Naval.
and maybe you mentioned this to us in one of our ELT meetings. I'm sorry if you may be repeating yourself, but of that 100 million shortfall, at the chancellor's level, have you guys looked at what percentage from each campus will be giving into meeting that 100 million?
No.
Okay. Because, you know, I just don't want to be, if we're going to start looking at where we might save money, that we end up giving in 50% because we're usually overachievers at KCC, and everybody else is like, never mind, KCC gave 50%. Let's stop already.
No, this is one place where I don't want us to be number one.
Okay, good. Right on.
It's not going to be pro rata based on how many students you're going to give. This percentage of the 100 million goes to you. It is very much based on what makes sense.
Okay.
How do we continue to deliver the services that are required for our students, and how do we make sure that what we deliver is what is necessary for the state?
Thank you.
Other
Louise,
questions?
can I share some stuff before we get into some questions?
Sure.
Or
Okay.
can we go later?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to speak a little bit more freely and basically try. So I'm listening to all these questions. We also got that document. I had a chance to have a meeting with the Student Affairs leadership team yesterday about this very topic. And I see everybody's ideas and everybody's questions, and they're really good and they're really logical, and we'll have more time, I think, later on to actually do this. But I just kind of wanted to address really the huge, big pink elephant. Is it pink elephant? I don't know. I'm not good at these metaphors. Whatever that's in the room. And it's not this document. It is the cuts and it's not the cuts. And I want to share this because if you're feeling this way, I want to hope to kind of bring recognition to it and normalize this overwhelming burden, stress that we're feeling because of all this. So the past year, we looked at budget cuts from last year, right? That was a great introduction. We thought it'd get better, then got COVID, which every day it changes and it sucks all over again. Sorry, we're just gonna be on a real conversation now. And then we have this bigger cut. And to be honest, when you read that document, if you are angry, anxious, frustrated, angry all over again, depressed, all of those emotions, it's fine. All of us feel that way. Admin felt that way. I shared with my team that this is something I struggled with for the past 3 months and I didn't know how to talk about it. But it's a huge burden. And I know we have some ideas. I think it's already coming out here, but we got to recognize that part. There is so much stress that is going on in this job that it's almost like a normalized COVID stress. And that's crazy. And I don't think anybody expected that, but we keep pushing through, kept pushing through since March. And for me personally, it probably last month, I don't know if I could do it anymore. But if you are feeling that way, talk to others because we are all in this similar boat. And I think this document finally gave me the opportunity to talk about it because I don't really know how to talk about it. I mean, as an administrator, I'm supposed to know how to do all of this. I'm supposed to know how to handle the burden, but I don't really know. It's totally new. I talked to people who were part of the past budget cuts and furloughs, and yeah, you get some inclinations of what you could do, but in the end, we don't know what will come out of this. But I just want to acknowledge those feelings because we don't talk about it too much at the campus Zoom meetings. I mean, we kind of go through this, and it becomes almost routine because as professionals, that's what we do. But also as professionals in this very unique time, and for me coming out of student affairs, this is pretty much what we preach and what we're trained to do, which is kind of ironic because it kind of hit me and I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be really good at it, but I'm really not. So not to say that I'm really good at a lot of stuff, but if it's affecting me, how is it affecting everybody else? And from those very limited conversations I do have on campus with people here, I would say it's like 9 out of 10, all in the same boat, all in the same thing. And I think this document didn't help it at all. But to just kind of say, yes, we do understand the bigger, I don't know what to call it anymore, I'm running out of words, but the big stress that is coming out of, there's a lot of answers that we don't know. I don't know. And even when I try to answer them, I think it makes sense, but then I don't really know again because the next day it changes. But we gotta be okay with that. And I can speak for myself. And being on the admin team, this is something I talk about that I bring up to people that we understand. It's not just programs. Really what we're looking at before programs is people's lives, people's jobs. And that's the heart of it. And that's where a lot of the stress comes from, the burden. Eventually, yes, the program will affect the students, but as I shared with the SALT team and even the admin team, our focus is really on our employees at this point. Because how can we even help the students if we can't help ourselves? But like I said, I wanted to get that out there and out of the way. And if you need to talk to somebody, talk to me, talk to the administrator, because we can't move forward in any type of conversation. The ideas that you really have to really help us move will never come to fruition because it's kind of there. The stress is there, but it's almost like we're supposed to deal with it, and we're not. We are, but we're not. You're supposed to be doing it as a campus, not as individuals trying to navigate this entire new territory as we move forward. But yeah, I kind of wanted to share that because I know we're kind of digging our hole and then kind of going back to the questions and all that, but it's just something, I feel it, like it's there. I mean, it's Zoom, it's weird, you don't really feel things, but from interactions, from responses, just the overall energies of our meetings, and I just felt like it needed to be said. And if you are feeling that way, I'm there with you. We can kind of talk about it, but hopefully if we acknowledge it and find the support, we can kind of move forward because this is tough even for me. I don't even have answers for it. And I think I'm going to rely a lot on the admin team, a lot on my student affairs team, and as well as the rest of the campus, because it's something I can't do alone. As Mark was already pointing out, there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know. And we're going to depend on them through the various conversations that we have. And that's eventually how that message is going to be said. But yeah, thank you for letting me share that. I could go on and on, but I'm going to stop over there. But just kind of wanted to bring attention to all of that.
Thanks, Noel. I'll open it up. Anybody else want to share more questions or comments, or anybody want to help us understand what they're feeling? Oh, there's something from staff council. And Lisa Aganon has a very practical question about departments who are losing clerical positions. Yes, we are talking about it, Lisa. No easy answer there though, but we're trying to figure out how best to support the departments.
I wanted to ask a question to Linda. I think Linda's on here, or maybe Darsh. Could you let us know if some information about the EAP. I know that when I was going through a huge restructuring in Alaska, that it was very difficult for people, and there were services that were made available for individuals who were having difficult times, such as counselors and so forth. So can you let us know about that service in case people need that?
Yes, that's a really good point, Carol. Thank you for mentioning that. I have been in touch with EAP services to see if anything changed or any other requirements are there, but it's pretty much the same service as they offered before. The only change is that it is conducted via Zoom, or even you can have a phone call or phone conversation with the counselor. Counselors are all trained to answer questions with regards to COVID-19 or any kind of change management that you are going through in your organization. So I will be sending out an email including all the information that you need to know to set up an appointment with the counselor at Work Life Hawaii or EAP service. So EAP stands for Employee Assistance Program, and it doesn't have to be work related. It can be personal related, or it could be like financial or economic, or anything that is happening in your personal life as well as professional life. So please utilize that service. You get 3 hours of free counseling, and after that 3 hours, the rate is discounted for University of Hawaii employees. But again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or Linda, our HR office, and we will be able to assist you with any of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Darsh.
Hey, can I also add, this is Cindy, mental health counselor. Most of the health insurance companies, Kaiser, HMSA, are offering free services, free behavioral health services. So if you call the numbers on the back of your card, they can connect you to those counselors. Darsh, I'll connect with you also to give you another contact for UH Telehealth as well. And they're offering some free initial services.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yep.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. There was a question from Jeff about revenue generation. Is the system looking at that? I don't remember any system conversations about revenue generation, but if you look at all of the campus feedback plans that are posted as part of that document, you'll see that every campus does talk about revenue generation. What I do know is that there's a lot more focus on grants from the system office these days. So the latest one, if you watched HNN Sunrise this morning, they were talking about a $13 million grant to the community colleges for workforce development. And the Oahu Back to Work grant that came to the community colleges was a way to generate revenue for the colleges. So I think the revenue generation aspect will be grant related, not necessarily monetizing other things. Although if you look at the last page of the document, it does list some properties that are available at the campuses that could be monetized. So that's the area where the revenue generation has been addressed. Yeah, Sally just put it there too.
Luis, can I add to that?
Yes, please.
To be clear, I know revenue generation is always a great answer. It's difficult to get something going, but when you find something going, it's good. The problem, because we are a government agency and in the laws that we work under, to be very, very clear, a loss in a general fund dollar or tuition and fees dollar is not the same as a gain in a revenue generating activity. Okay, so let me what I mean. When we, for example, pay a salary with general funds, we pay a salary. The fringe benefits and all of that stuff is covered centrally by the Department of Budget and Finance. When we earn $1 in revenue generating and we want to pay a salary, we actually have to earn close to $2 to pay the same amount in general funds. revenue generation is good sometimes because then you can use it for program, expenses and such. But that's not always that easy because you always have to tie in your source of revenue making to the expenditure. So it's great if we can get these ideas going, that would be phenomenal, but it will never replace the upcoming loss of general funds and tuition and fees that we may see.
Other questions, other shares? Feel free to jump in. Where is the vacant land? Hal says. I knew that was going to happen. So the vacant land that is referred to is the block between Diamond Head Theater and Leahi Hospital. It's vacant. It actually belongs to the university.
But we've maintained it for the better part of the last 20 years. Manoa, the system, used to come down and bring 20, 30 guys and do gang work, and they'd knock it out in a couple of hours. For the last 10 years or so, the system, Manoa, has pulled out and essentially relies on a 6-man grounds crew of KCC to take care of that same lot. And those neighbors there, and I'm sorry if you live on that street, they are absolutely brutal. They want a golf course. They moved in and they saw tall grass, California grass, and in their mind they saw the putting green and Waialae Country Club. And that's what their expectations are. So even though it's not our land, I mean, possession is 9/10 of the law. So we take care of it. We've maintained it. Hopefully, if we sell it off for whatever purpose, we would be able to not only help the university, but also help our campus.
Brian, is that a little triangle piece of land by Sunset, across from Leahi? Where across from Leahi, that triangular piece of land, is that ours too? The universities? I heard that it was.
I'm not sure which what piece of land you're talking about, Carol. Sorry.
When you go down toward Leahi Hospital, and
From which
then
direction, Carol?
from the campus, you're going down, and you're at the Leahi's on the left, and then you can go to the right. There's a tree. It's a fork in the road, and there's it splits, and there's a triangular piece of land there. That triangular piece of land where Hugs is, I think that might be university land.
That is all university land. A lot of that street, as you're driving out toward top of the hill area, the Kaimuki area, everything on your right hand side on that street is essentially university land.
Okay.
I would say about 3/4 of it.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
so. Okay, thanks.
Now, when we say university land, keep in mind it's only deeded to the university, right? It's and so DHNL or DHNR owns DNHR owns most of the land up there. So
Sarah's got an idea to have weddings on the campus because we have such a great view. Do we do weddings, Brian? We've done weddings, haven't we?
no, I think Takahashi wanted to start doing it. We may have done one or two in the past.
There's been
But
certainly birthday parties in the cafeteria.
yeah, there's been birthday parties. Understand that when, part of the burden of the culinary program when they were trying to get catering off the ground is we are not a hall. We are not a celebratory hall, and we cannot compete with the private sector, and we are often, accused of doing so. So we kind of already had a finger tied behind our back when we were trying to do stuff like this. But yeah, I mean, that's some revenue generating, but again, getting to the point of revenue generating, and Brandon put a good point in here in the chat about the federal side of revenue generation. So it's not bad. I don't want to dissuade anyone from looking at this, but what the university needs right now is $100 million. And it's going to be very difficult to get all kinds of revenue generating up and running in 1 year or less than a year.
Louise, will you and the ELT be reviewing the big ideas document since it has been reopened? Yes, we will. A summary, as you know, was sent to Erica and it's posted on Erica's website. I didn't want to put the link to the Consider It website because there were names on it. So we did a summary. Thank you to Joanne. And we will be looking back at the big ideas and moving them forward. I've asked the ELT to be looking at the document and seeing what might be actionable, what might we pick up and move forward on the campus. So yes, we are looking at it quite definitely. And it is, again, point of departure for strategic planning as well. Is there any date by when we should comment? Yes, it's closing November 1. So you have 2 more weeks. Calvin, did you want to ask a question? Because a little avatar is raising its hand.
No, I don't.
Okay. Kara wants to ask a question.
All right, just a little announcement. Thank you. Angela is the biggest supporter, I think, of big ideas. So I'm so glad she's in our corner helping us. Just make sure when you propose something that you also vote for it if you have an opinion about what you're proposing. Otherwise, it doesn't count. It won't raise up the question in the queue. It's like it's just there. So you have to put in your own opinions as well when you submit a proposal. If you have more questions about that, we can talk about it via chat.
Yeah. Okay, other questions, other comments? Shirley says, due to the reality of the current budget situation, is there a sense of what kinds of decisions will be made, have to be made in the short term versus the long term? Is there a timeline for decisions to be made and implemented? Yes. It was a yes or no question. I can say yes, right? No. Shirley, the timeline is, for now, December 1, for the board's December meeting to have a sense of what the decisions are in terms of if we're going to centralize, what are we going to centralize? If we're going to consolidate offerings, which ones and where? So those decisions need to be made between now and December. It's a very short timeline. This is not how we would do it if we had inordinate amounts of time. The spring semester would then be figuring out, okay, we've decided that this is the best way to proceed. Now, how do we make it happen? What steps do we need to take? If personnel issues are involved, we need to make sure that unions are consulted. All of that needs to happen. And some things will be implementable in fall of 2021. Others will take more time. If there are decisions made on a particular campus that they will stop out a program or terminate a program, then that's an even longer term process because we need to make sure that all the students graduate in that program before we can shut that program down. So there are different kinds of decisions that can be done sooner, others that take more time, and still others that take even much longer times, up to maybe 2 years before we can actually terminate or effectuate that decision. Depends on the decisions. Thank you for the note on self-care. Can faculty with 11-month contracts be forced to switch to 9 months? It depends on programmatic needs, Hal. It's a discussion, it's a conversation for sure, but it depends on programmatic needs. It's the function, not the person. And assignments are management's decisions, yes. Oh, yes. Thanks, Candy. Rally the troops. There were a lot of the big ideas that had lots of positive support, and a couple, including 11-month to 9-month, which had very substantial negative feedback. So feedback both directions is important. Is that the TPTOCTAE? Thank you. Dave, what are you hearing from the industry about preparations? Are they ready?
Yeah, I believe strongly that the industry is ready. I think we're still nervous about our own government. We had a nice webinar today with Pacific Asia Travel Association, and the new CEO of HTA spoke, the director of marketing for HTA spoke, and then also Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau. So one of the biggest issues that came up in the surveys that they've been doing about travel demand is just fear. You know, people are very, very fearful, you know, of the situation. They did a survey apparently a few months ago, and they thought 1 out of 4 people were fearful of dying of COVID. Now 1 out of every 2 people are fearful.
Oh.
But there were some bright spots. Yeah, you know, we do feel that the industry is ready. But just to make a quick comment, thanks for asking. Sorry, I know this really wasn't your question. But the movement is really interesting to watch how we will evolve out of this, and what it kind of looks like. John DeFries, who is the new CEO of HTA, is Native Hawaiian, born and raised in Waikiki. And the conversation has really shifted around Malama. And that's going to become the sort of pivotal theme throughout everything that we do. The idea, matter of fact, the whole phrase is Malama Ku'u Home, which is, of course, care for our beautiful home, beloved home. And the idea behind all of this is, as we start to reopen, that there's a real strong educational push towards who we invite to the islands, that these are mindful travelers that we hope will come. Louise, you've heard me use the word regenerative travel is the new buzzword that I've picked up. It's something that I hope our industry embraces, and I know it's something that our department is starting to embrace. So it's no longer just sustaining, but it's coming and actually doing something. So one of the things that was really, really cool was they've been working on this program of voluntourism, where if you come and you get involved in doing something or volunteering on the island, you may actually get like a 7th night free or a 3rd night free or something like that. Some of the industry partners are looking forward to encouraging that kind of commitment. So yeah, it's an interesting mindset. I mean, obviously, we're not going to see, you know, a flood of people. It's going to be a long time before we get back to 10 million, if we ever really want to get back to 10 million. But I think some of those tensions that we saw taking place with 10 million, it's a good time for us to retool and restart that. So interesting, you know, there was an interesting optimism. You know, a lot of the international markets we won't see for another 4 to 6 months. Australia, we probably won't see until like June, something like that. So anyway, yeah.
Interesting times. Thanks, Dave.
You bet.
There's a note from Darsh. Darsh, do you want to jump on and make a plug?
Sure. A couple of days ago, I shared an email stating different events that are happening on our campus for the coming, for the October and November. So we have 5 events total for AUW to support University of Hawaii campaign. We have requested to extend the deadline for donation, and we got the extension. So now the deadline is November 13, 2020, which would give us more time to collect funds and then support this amazing cause. we have 5 different events that are coming up. I'll just briefly describe that. If you have any questions, just let me know. And me or Maria, we both are working as in coordinators for these events for this year. So first we have Tombola event that is very similar to bingo, but it's a different format. So it would be something interesting to see how the game works. And as I said, it's very similar to bingo. So there would be prizes and you can purchase tickets, and it would be, the numbers would be called out and then you can win prizes. The second is murder mystery. So we have different cases that we'll be picking from, and then you can serve as one of the role of that particular case, and you can help us identify who the murderer is. And if you get the right answer, you'll win the prize. It's a amazing murder mystery party. You might have heard of murder mystery dinner parties, which happens live, and you see live action going on around and while you're having dinner, and then you have to identify who the murderer is. But this would be virtual, so we'll be doing it via Zoom. Everything would be provided, no preparation is needed. Script would be provided, it would be much easier and a very interesting event. So if you're interested in that, let me know or just register. The link is in the chat box. Thank you, Maria, for putting that in. And also, if you want to be a host and if you're interested in hosting a murder mystery, more than welcome. Just let me know and I can assign you to host information, and we can do so as well. Another event is virtual painting party. So we are painting jungle falls, and you can paint your own version of Hawaiian jungle falls if you want to. It's again virtually conducted via Zoom. You will have to register online. And there are different options to pay. You can pay via check, cash, or Venmo, and we can donate it to AUW accordingly. More information is again on our website. And if you need help with our supplies, we are here to help you for that as well. But you can have your friends, family, students are welcome, faculty, staff, whoever can join, you're more than welcome to join in these events. The other event is, I have special thanks to Angela. We have amazing brownie bites. And again, the link is in the chat box. Angela, do you want to say a few words about your fundraiser?
It's actually a yum raiser.
Yum raiser.
I have 4 words: Chantilly McNut brownies. That's all I have to say.
Amazing. So put in your order. We are collecting orders. The form link is again in the chat box. And lastly, we have Lauhala Bracelet Workshop conducted by Joe Yoshida. That registration is limited to 25 participants because we want to keep it small, simple, and setting. So again, we have almost 10 people registered until now. So there are 15 spaces available. It's $15 for that workshop, and supplies would be given to you for free. So jump onto different Google Forms and register for that. And if you need more information, let me know. And thank you for all those people who have already donated. I can't thank you enough. And our campaign is going really good. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Darsh. I'm so glad we're not doing penny wars. Let's see. John Rand wants to know if UH faculty are going to be furloughed. Is that a decision made by the board or the UH? No, the decision for furloughs is made by the governor. It is a statewide furlough, not a UH furlough if it happens. I've heard rumors, I'm sure you've heard rumors. You may already be hearing from your unions about this. There are rumors about it. I don't know for sure, but there have been rumors. But it has to be the governor and the unions to have that conversation, and then it applies to all the public employees. And yes, let us say thank you to Darsh and Maria for organizing these virtual events that will take us into areas where we haven't been before, murder mysteries and trauma. And I know that last year when we did the painting thing, it was live. And if you were there, you saw how interesting it can be to have a painting in front of everybody that looks like Diamond Head, but at least one of the constituents actually painted a pineapple. So you don't know what's going to happen when you put people in painting together. I'm not going to give out any names, but you know who you are. Okay. Yeah, privately, that person, that pineapple painter. Okay, it's 2 o'clock. It's time for the end of this. HGA members, you're getting a note from Kevin. Newsletters, yes, that will get you up-to-date information as well if you're a member of UPA or some other union as well. I do want to close by reminding all of us, take to your hearts what Noel talked about, and about the need to take care of yourself and to take care of each other. It's so very difficult when we see each other only as Brady Bunch squares and not face to face. I'll tell you that, let's see, yesterday, Brandon, day before yesterday, Brandon walked by my office and just waved into the doorway, and I chased him down. Brandon, hi!
That was yesterday, if you can believe it or not.
I hadn't seen him for so long, and I just felt I had to speak to a human being in 3 dimensions. So please do look out for each other. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, be kind. Be kind. And we will get through this. It'll be hard, but together. So, bye. Unmute yourself and say goodbye.
See y'all later.
Bye.
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 Bye.